Imagine waking up tomorrow and someone hands you $1 million. At first, it feels like the ultimate dream. But here's the hard truth. If you haven't grown into the kind of person who can manage $1 million, you'll lose it. That money will slip through your fingers faster than you can imagine. Why? Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about the person you become. Success is something you attract, not something you chase. And here's the secret. If you want more, you have to become more. Think about it. Most people work harder on their job than they do on themselves. They grind, they put in hours, but they stop growing. They expect their income to rise while they stay the same. But here's the reality. Income rarely outpaces personal growth. You might get a lucky break. Maybe you land a promotion or make a big sale. But unless you've grown to handle that success, life has a way of pulling you back down. It's like people who win the lottery in the United States. Statistics show that nearly 70% of lottery winners go broke within a few years. Why? Because the money was bigger than their mindset. They didn't become millionaires in their habits, so the millions vanished. Now picture two co-workers in New York. Both start with the same salary, same hours, same job title. One of them spends weekends binge-watching shows. The other spends weekends reading books about investing and taking online courses. Fast forward 10 years. Who do you think has more opportunities, more income, and more freedom? It's almost always the one who invested in themselves. That's the first truth. If you want to be wealthy and happy for the long term, you can't just chase money. You have to focus on becoming the type of person who can create, manage, and multiply wealth. And that brings us to the first step of lasting change, learning how things really work. And once you understand that, you'll see why growth always comes before rewards. Let's dive into the first step of lasting change. Find out how things work. This was one of the biggest lessons shared in the talk. The idea is simple but powerful. It's not the lack of money that keeps people stuck, it's the lack of ideas. Think about it. If someone doesn't know how money actually works, how it's earned, invested, and multiplied, then even if they suddenly get a raise, they often end up back where they started. That's why personal development isn't just about motivation. It's about learning, gaining insights, and building knowledge that compounds. So how do you actually find out how things work? There are 3 ways. First, read. Every successful person I've studied reads constantly. Some read for hours a day, not for entertainment only, but to learn. Books, articles, biographies, these are windows into decades of someone else's experience. One book might save you 5 years of trial and error. Imagine picking up a biography of a successful entrepreneur like Howard Schultz, the man behind Starbucks. You could learn how he turned a small coffee shop into a global brand. By reading, you get access to lessons he learned the hard way, without paying the price yourself. And here's the thing, you don't need to read for 5 hours a day. Start with 30 minutes. Half an hour with a solid book on money, leadership, or personal growth can reshape the way you think. It's like a daily workout for your mind. Second, listen. Get around successful people and pay attention to what they say. In the original talk, there was a suggestion: take a successful person out to dinner, pay for the meal, and just listen. That advice still holds today. Let's make it practical. Suppose you're in Chicago and you know someone who has built a small real estate business. Offer to buy them lunch, ask questions, listen more than you talk. Even one idea, like how they financed their first duplex, can save you years of mistakes. And don't just learn from those who are thriving. Pay attention to people who struggled. If a friend tells you how credit card debt kept them from buying a home, that's a lesson too. You don't need to repeat their mistake. Third, observe. Watch how successful people behave, because success leaves clues. Notice how they show up on time. Notice how they treat a waiter. Notice how they handle setbacks. These small patterns, repeated daily, are what create long-term results. In the US, you can see this everywhere. The small business owner who greets every customer warmly. The manager who takes notes in every meeting. The investor who quietly studies before making a move. These behaviors aren't accidents. They're habits. And here's the challenge. Are you studying success, or are you hoping for luck? Most people cross their fingers and hope things will work out. But hope is not a strategy. The real path is to make learning a lifestyle. Read daily, listen with intention, observe with awareness, write down what you discover. Don't keep it in your head. Use a journal, use your phone notes, use anything, but capture the lesson so you can apply it again and again. When you repeat what you've learned, something amazing happens. Ideas sink deeper. They stop being information and start becoming part of who you are. That's when growth becomes visible, not just in your income, but in your confidence, your relationships, and your lifestyle. The first step is clear. Knowledge changes everything, and the more you learn, the more valuable you become. Now that you understand the power of finding out how things work, the next question is, what do you actually do with that knowledge? Because information without action leads nowhere. Now comes the second step. Go to work. You can read all the books in the world. You can listen to every podcast and attend every seminar. But if you don't take action, nothing changes. The real excitement in life is not just learning something new. It's making yourself do what you know you should do. That's discipline. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And just like going to the gym, you don't start by lifting 300 pounds. You start small. Maybe your first discipline is making your bed every morning. It's simple, but it trains your brain to finish what you start. From there, you add another. Track your spending. Write down every dollar you use for a week. At first, it feels boring. Then you realize where your money is leaking. Think about a young professional in Toronto. He earns $60,000 a year. At first, he spends without tracking. Starbucks, takeout lunches, streaming services, impulse shopping. At the end of the month, he wonders where his money went. Now imagine that same person decides to pack lunch 3 times a week. That's about $30 saved per week. $120 a month, $1,400 a year. If he invests that at 8% annually, in 20 years he could have nearly $70,000. That's the power of small disciplines stacked over time. Self-motivation is key. No one is coming to push you every day. You can't wait for your boss, your partner, or your friends to keep you moving. If you rely on others to motivate you, what happens when they don't show up? You stall. That's why you need to learn how to light your own fire. You can't outsource motivation. It has to come from inside. One way to do this is to set small, non-negotiable rules for yourself. For example, every Friday I transfer $100 into my investment account. It doesn't matter how tired you are or what excuses come up, you do it. That's self-motivation in action. And here's another thing. Don't just learn for knowledge. Learn to apply. If you read a book about real estate but never make a move, you've wasted your time. Knowledge that stays on paper is just information. Knowledge put into action is power. In the United States, countless people attend seminars, take notes, and get hyped up, but the ones who actually build wealth are those who go home and do something with what they learned. They buy their first rental, they start their side hustle, they open that retirement account. Every day you have a choice. You can keep waiting for motivation, or you can decide to act even when it's uncomfortable. And here's the exciting part. The moment you start stacking small disciplines, life starts shifting. You feel stronger, you start seeing results, and suddenly, big challenges don't seem so overwhelming anymore. But there's still one more step, because while working hard on yourself matters, there's a trap that can destroy all your progress if you're not careful. The third step is simple but critical. Don't try to beat the system. In the original lesson, it was said clearly, when you find out how life works, don't cut corners. Some people learn just enough to be clever. They bend rules, they cheat a little, they look for shortcuts. And at first, it might look like it works, but in the long run, it always catches up. Think about the housing crash in 2008. Banks created risky loans. Borrowers stretched beyond their means. Everyone thought they had found a shortcut to wealth. But shortcuts turned into a disaster. Millions lost homes. The whole system collapsed. Or consider a startup founder in Silicon Valley who exaggerated numbers to attract investors. It worked for a while. The company raised millions. But when the truth came out, the business fell apart overnight. Investors left. Reputation destroyed. The shortcut ended the dream. Now compare that to the family who plays it straight. They pay their taxes. They invest in index funds every month. They live below their means in a modest house in Ohio. They don't look flashy, but 20 years later, they're debt-free with $1 million portfolio. They didn't beat the system, they worked the system the right way. That's the lesson. It may take longer, it may not feel exciting, but doing it right builds something that lasts. In North America, it's easy to get tempted by fast money. Credit card companies promise easy spending, online gurus advertise instant riches. Crypto hype comes and goes. But if you build your wealth through shortcuts, it rarely sticks. Instead, focus on steady, proven principles. Learn how money works. Apply small disciplines daily. Play the long game. And do it the right way. The third step is a warning. It says resist the urge to cheat. Resist the temptation to cut corners. because what you build honestly will stand the test of time. Now that you know all 3 steps, learn, act, and stay true, the question becomes, how do you connect them to create a complete path to wealth and happiness? That's where everything comes together. When you put all 3 steps together, something powerful happens. You begin to transform your entire life. First, you learn how things work. Then, you go to work and apply what you know. Finally, you commit to doing it the right way without shortcuts. That's the formula for lasting wealth and real happiness. Think about the compound effect. One small choice today, repeated over time, multiplies. Read 30 minutes a day, and in a year you've consumed the knowledge of 12 to 15 books. Save $100 a month, and in 10 years you have over $15,000, not even counting growth. Invest that money wisely, and it grows while you sleep. Picture someone in their 20s working a regular job in Los Angeles. They make just enough to cover rent and groceries. At first, it feels impossible to build wealth. But they decide to start small. They read a chapter a night. They set up automatic contributions to a retirement account. They write down lessons in a journal, just like Jim Rohn suggested. By 35, while their friends are still living paycheck to paycheck, they have a portfolio growing quietly in the background. They've built skills that bring promotions and new opportunities. And they've avoided the temptation to gamble it all on the latest get-rich-quick scheme. Here's the reality. In North America, many people dream of retiring early, traveling, and living on their own terms. But dreams don't become reality without structure. Wealth doesn't arrive just because you want it. It arrives because you became the kind of person who can create it, manage it, and multiply it. So what do you do next? You don't have to change your whole life overnight. You just need to make one decision today. Pick one habit you'll start tomorrow. It could be reading 30 minutes. It could be saving $50. It could be reaching out to someone you admire and asking them for advice. Here's the challenge. If tomorrow looks the same as yesterday, then 5 years from now will look just like the last 5 years. But if you change even one small thing tomorrow, you change your direction. And when you change your direction, you change your destination. Success is not about chasing money. It's about attracting it by becoming more valuable. Happiness is not about what you get. It's about who you become. That's the path we're on here at the Passive Path. Step by step, building skills. Step by step, building wealth. Step by step, building freedom. So ask yourself this question. Starting tomorrow, what will you do differently? What is the one action that will move your life in a new direction? The choice is yours. And the choice you make today will shape your next 5 years. If this message connected with you, hit like. Subscribe to the Passive Path for more clear and practical wealth lessons every week. And share in the comments one small habit you're committing to start tomorrow. Remember this, success isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by becoming more. Your journey to wealth and happiness begins the moment you decide to grow.